Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursdays. We're glad you're with us today. It is August 25th, 2022. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just open up the Zoom chat window. You're welcome to put your contact information there. Also, if you'd like to connect with other people who are on the call today, for those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions into the comment field. Please note this event is being recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, just about 10 years ago, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I usually have copies with me most of the time. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007, and we have a very interesting program coming up tomorrow, and I'll tell you about that at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. Just as a reminder, your resume and your LinkedIn profile doesn't get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So if you'd like to get more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com and you'll be able to find out how to sign up for a totally free practice interview. Well, when we started in 2021, when we started collecting different speakers to talk about networking, here's the collection. Everybody, networking is basically just reaching out and talking to people, but how do you do it? What's the process? Everybody does it a little bit differently. So these are all of our speakers that we've had. Today, our speaker is going to be Jay Fusaro. He's going to talk about effective networking. He's got a great book here called From the Other Side of the Desk. If you ever want to buy a career book that has everything that you should be doing in your job search, this is it. It doesn't really, the cover doesn't really talk about how good the book is, but there is not one thing in this book that I disagree with as far as what you should do in your job search. Jay is very methodical in the way he lays things out. We are going to be watching a recording today. Jay's internet drops out once or twice, so you may see his voice drop away and then he may come back after being frozen. So just be aware of that. So let me get this presentation going. It's about an hour long. If you have any questions, please put them in the Zoom chat window, and then we will get those questions answered for you at the end of the session. Principal founder of Eureka Professional Services, where as an interview coach, he provides his clients with skills and techniques necessary to successfully conduct an efficient and effective job search. Jay graduated from Northeastern University in Boston. He's a CPA in the state of Texas, as well as a certified SMU business coach. He was the vice president of financial planning for Alliance Data during their successful IPO. Jay has written a book, and it's an excellent book called From the Other Side of the Desk, a practical guide to shortening your job search. And you see the picture right up there. To me, it's the best practical book on the job search that I've read, and I recommend this book frequently over and over again to people. I've got my copy right here. I like it especially because since there's no head on there, if you look at my picture, it works really well here for a full body shot. So please welcome Jay Fusaro. Jay, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you and the team for all that you do. It's a terrific program that you put together. So great job by you and the team for doing this. Appreciate it. So Jeff went over my background very briefly about my company, Eureka Professional Services. I teach my clients the skills and techniques necessary to conduct an efficient and an effective job search. What does that mean? I teach my clients 6 things. What does a good cover letter look like? What does a good resume look like? How to effectively network, that we're going to talk about this morning, how to interview, how to negotiate the offer, and how to make the most of your first 90 days onboarding. That's what I teach my clients. The average interview success rate is about 25%, meaning most people interview with 4 companies and land one offer. My clients are at about a 62% interview success rate, and I've had about 225 clients since I've been doing this. And that's primarily because they're better prepared going into the interview. And we're going to talk about how to properly prepare for a networking meeting, which ties in very well to how to prepare for an interview. 8 and 9 are, I've had 8 clients receive multiple offers, 9 clients receive offers for more than they were expecting. The average person is in transition for about 9 months. My clients are with me for approximately 3.5 months. And that's due to 2 reasons. One is they're better prepared for the interview, so it's going to take them a shorter period of time. But the second reason is I get clients in different stages of their search. I get clients who have been with the same company 10, 15, 20 years, don't have a resume. They're not familiar and they're out of practice with networking and interviewing. They're going to take longer than 3.5 months to land because we have to cover everything, all the 6 things that I discussed. I have another group of clients that they have a very good resume, have a very good cover letter, but they're going on interviews and not getting offers. They're going to take a shorter time period to land because we just need to focus on their interview skills. So on average, it's 3.5 months. 37, 39, 24, and 1 is my client distribution. 37% are employed, 39% are in transition, 24% are recent graduates, and I always have at least one pro bono client. And pro bono isn't someone who just doesn't feel like paying for my services. It's someone in some type of job search distress, whether it's financial or some other type of job search distress. I always have at least one pro bono client. I charge a flat fee and I stay with my clients until they land. So Jeff referenced the book. Ta-da. See, that's a good idea, Jeff. I like your idea about putting your head on top of the book. If anybody reads the book, please feel free to call me and I'll answer any questions, pro bono, because for people that read the book, I don't need to spend a lot of time with them because most of the time is spent telling people, quite frankly, what is in the book. So if you read the book, feel free to call me if you have any questions before you go on an interview, and I'll be glad to help you out. So I start each networking, go to the next slide, Jeff. I start each networking presentation with this slide, and I'm going to ask a series of rhetorical questions during the presentation. Just need to think about the answer. And the first one is this slide. And I got this slide from a show called Brain Games. What this slide is demonstrating is, what does this slide say? And it appears to say jumping to conclusions. So go ahead. And it doesn't, right? So why is that type of slide in a networking presentation? I have that slide in here because when I saw it on the show Brain Games, as I said, the show was about how our brains are hardwired to make assumptions. And when we meet with people networking, we immediately make assumptions. This person can help me, this person can't help me, whatever the case may be. And what I'm asking you to do when you're networking is resist the temptation to assume. You can't possibly know who can and cannot help you. You don't know what connections this person has. You don't know who they go to church with, who they golf with, who they socialize with. You don't know who their spouse knows. You don't know who their friends know. So resist the temptation to assume when you're networking who can and cannot help you. Go ahead, Jeff. So let's talk about some laying the foundation for networking. The first is, what is networking? We'll talk about what networking is and what networking is not. To me, networking is 4 things. It's being able to gather information, gain advice and feedback, make connections to others, and generate insights and ideas with the other person. That's what networking is. What networking is not is asking someone, do they know of any open positions? Asking someone for a job, asking someone if they know of a company that could use somebody with your skills. That's not networking. If somebody knows about an open position, they will tell you. You don't need to ask them about if they know of an opportunity. If they know of an opportunity, they will tell you. You're there to gather information, gain advice and feedback, make connections to others that can help you, and generate insights and ideas. That's what networking is. You need to focus on what you can control during your search. You can't focus on what you cannot control. So when I'm giving a presentation, I can't focus on how many people are going to attend. I can't control that, whether it's 1 or 100. I can't control that. So I don't worry about how many people are going to attend a meeting when I'm going to give a presentation. But what can you control? You can control 5 things during your search. You can control your attitude, your dress, your body language, your preparation, and your introduction. And we'll talk about what I mean by that with networking. Your attitude. When you're meeting with people networking, you have to have an upbeat, positive attitude meeting with them. You need to show them that you have a positive attitude towards your search. You're in a difficult situation, being in transition. You need to convey to that person that you have a positive attitude towards your search. Your dress. You need to dress for a networking meeting as if it's an interview, because it just might be. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. You need to dress for a networking meeting as if it's an interview. I've met with people when I was in the corporate world that would want to network with me. They would, we'd meet at Cafe Express in Mockingbird Station. They would be in a polo shirt, uh, jeans, very inappropriate to dress casually for a networking meeting because you might be on an interview and you don't know it. You need to dress for every networking meeting as if that networking meeting is an interview. If you're going to wear a tie, wear a tie, wear a shirt with an open collar, not a button down collar if you're going to wear a tie. Make sure you have a properly fitting shirt for men. If you're going, if you're wearing a belt, make sure it has 1 crease mark in it, not 2 or 3 where you've gained and lost weight. Polished tied shoes. For women, dress conservatively, little to no perfume. Don't wear dangling jewelry, earrings that can be visually distracting, or heavy bracelets that can bang on the table and be distracting. So use common sense, but dress for a networking meeting as if it were an interview. Your body language. Be mindful of your body language when you're meeting with people, right? Head up, shoulders back, chest out. Have a smile. It's okay to smile when you're networking with people. Be mindful of your body language, your posture. People are going to notice these things about you. So be mindful of your body language. Your preparation. We're going to talk this morning about how to properly prepare for a networking meeting, which carries over to how to prepare for an interview. I can tell you most of your competition is not going to prepare for a networking meeting or an interview the way we're going to discuss. Most people are not going to put in the time and effort that we're talking about for a networking meeting. There's a lot of people that believe a networking meeting is pretty much meeting with someone. I call it, shaking hands and kissing babies and just kind of blowing through the meeting. That's not a proper way to conduct a networking meeting. You need to properly prepare, and we're going to outline that. You need to properly prepare for a networking meeting and properly prepare for an interview. You need to separate yourself from the competition, and the way you're going to separate yourself from the competition is through proper preparation. And what that kind of reminded me of when I was talking about this right after the Super Bowl, and I'll confess I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but the man prepares like nobody's business. He is probably the most prepared quarterback, if not player, in the NFL. And that's why he has so many Super Bowls. He is properly prepared. You need to think about proper preparation before you go into these meetings. That's why I believe people are nervous when they either go on an interview or go on a networking meeting. Is because they're not properly prepared. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a minute. And the last one is your introduction. You can control your introduction when you're networking. So even if Jeff did not ask me for an introduction, I would have provided him with an introduction. Why? Because two reasons. That's something that I can control how I'm introduced. I just don't want to rely on whoever the host is to introduce me. And I want to make it easy when I give a presentation for the host to have me. And part of that means providing them with an introduction. So with networking, when I was in transition one time, I was networking. Someone offered to provide introduction for me. They copied me on the email to the CFO of a company, and they misrepresented my background on the introduction email. It wasn't malicious. They just didn't know me well enough, and they just cobbled something together and sent it off to the CFO. So when I met with her, the first thing I needed to do was straighten out what my background was. So it made for an awkward start to the meeting. So from then on, I said, that's never going to happen again. So what I did was I prepared a 4-sentence introduction for the people that I was networking with on how I wanted to be introduced. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in etiquette. So have about a 4 or 5-sentence introduction that you can give to people for when they introduce you to others, that you can control. It makes their life easier, and you avoid any awkwardness with an introduction. So those are the 5 things that you can control: attitude, dress, body language, preparation, and an introduction. Be confident. As I said, most people are not confident when they're networking because they don't know what they're going to say. We're going to talk about how you can be properly prepared for that with the use of what I call a playbook, meaning 80% of what you say on a networking meeting or an interview should be scripted out and in a playbook. So I have a playbook for this presentation. It's a multi-page playbook that I script out everything that I'm going to say during this networking presentation. I'm not ad-libbing this presentation. I can speak to it from notes because I've scripted everything out in a Word document in a playbook. And that's going to give you more confidence. If 80% of what you're going to say on an interview is scripted out and you're comfortable and familiar with it, or during a networking meeting, you're going to be more confident. So confidence comes from proper preparation. Who's in charge of your search? You're in charge of your search. It's not anybody on Jeff's team. It's not somebody in a small group. It's not a spouse. It's not a friend. It's not a coach. If I'm talking to a prospect, I make it very clear to that prospect that I am not in charge of their search. No one should care more about your job search than you do. No one should care more about your job search than you do. You're in charge of your preparation. You're going to decide if you're going to prepare for a networking meeting, which takes a fair amount of time, but you're going to decide if you're going to prepare for this networking meeting as we're
Just lost sound. I'm not sure if anybody else did.
I didn't know all of these things when I was networking, and I made some pretty serious mistakes. So that's why I have it in here of networking etiquette. You start and end every networking meeting with thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it. Now you're thinking that sounds really obvious, and I know it does, but I didn't do it when I was in transition. I didn't do it when I was on some of my first networking meetings. And somebody brought that to my attention, uh, somebody that wound up being a friend of mine that was spending time with me. And he said, you haven't said thank you once in the few sessions that we've met. And I was horrified because I consider myself a pretty polite person, but I thought about did I not say thank you? And the conclusion that I came to was that when we're in transition, we become very self-centered and myopic. It's all about me. I'm in a tough spot. So you want to hook up the vacuum and you want to take. And that's not the right approach, obviously. So be mindful of saying, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it at the beginning and end of each networking meeting. Someone is taking time out of their day to help you. Please, the least you can do is let them know that you really appreciate it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is ask for 20 minutes and ask for advice and feedback. Part of the reason that people don't want to meet with others networking is they don't know how long the meeting's going to last, and they're afraid that the other person is going to ask them for something that they cannot give, a job. So if you ask for 20 minutes, what you're telling the other person is, I respect your time. There's going to be a finite duration to the meeting, and I'm going to ask you for your advice and feedback. So you're taking the person off the hook of the pressure of them thinking that you're going to ask them for a job. If you say, uh, Jeff, I would really like to get together for 20 minutes. I would really appreciate your advice and feedback during my search. Hopefully the other person's thinking, okay, I can spare 20 minutes for either over the phone, Zoom, or an in-person meeting. I can do that 20 minutes. And then they're asking me for advice and feedback. I can give that. I can give advice and feedback. I know they're not going to ask me for a job. Remember, if the other person knows of a position, they will tell you. So ask for 20 minutes and ask for their advice and feedback. And we're going to outline, like I said, the flow of a networking meeting in a little bit. And you can get a lot done if you know what the objective is of a networking meeting. In 20 minutes, you can get a lot done. Summarize at the end of the networking meeting the to-dos that the person offered to help you with. So if you're meeting with someone and they offered to introduce you to 2 or 3 people, summarize at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. And I'm really looking forward to these 3 introductions that you're going to make on my behalf. Remind them, summarize what they're going to do for you. That networking meeting that you're having might be the most important thing you're doing all day, but it may not be the most important thing the other person is doing all day. When you leave, that person's boss comes in, gives them a new deadline, piles a bunch of work on their desk. The phone rings, they get distracted, they're going to forget what they offered to do for you. Remind them at the end of the meeting what they offered to do for you. In your thank you note to that person that you're meeting with, remind them again what they offered to do. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it getting to know you. And I'm looking forward to these 3 introductions that you're going to make on my behalf. So remind them in your thank you note. Not only send a thank you note to the person that you met with, but send a thank you note to the person that introduced you to your networking partner. Why? You send a thank you note to the person that introduced you for 2 reasons. One, you're always looking for a legitimate reason to reach out and contact someone and remind them that you're in transition. So if you met with somebody 2 or 3 weeks ago and they introduced you to some people and you've now are meeting with those people, remind that person, send that person a thank you note. Thank you very much for introducing me to so-and-so. I really appreciate it. They're going to be a big help during my search. So you've reminded that other person that you're in transition, which is a good thing so they don't forget. And the second thing is you've closed the loop on that person helping you. When I introduce people to others for networking, I find it a little frustrating that they don't let me know if they met with that person and how the meeting went. So it's a professional courtesy to close the loop with the person that made the introduction and tell them I met with the other person. They're going to be a big help during my search, and I really appreciate it. And so you're accomplishing two things with the thank you note to the person that introduced you. You're closing the loop and you're reminding them that you're in transition. At the end of the 20 minutes, do a time check. Do a time check at the end of your 20 minutes and say, Jeff, I asked for 20 minutes. Do we need to wrap the meeting up or are you good on time? And the other person will say, I'm fine, let's keep going if they want to, or they'll say, you know what, I have a meeting at the top or the bottom of the hour, let's wrap the meeting up. So show them respect by doing a time check. By your preparation and doing a time check and following these etiquette guidelines, you're showing the person a great deal of respect for their time and their position. So make sure you do a time check to not run over. And keep in mind, one thing I forgot to mention about what is networking. Networking is one tool in your toolbox. Some people make the mistake of taking one approach to job search. Some people will say, I'm just going to network. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to find my next job networking. That's all they do is network. Some people just use recruiters. I'm just going to use recruiters. Some people sit behind a computer and fire off resumes all day long, and they think that's the way to conduct a job search. Networking, what we're talking about today, is one tool. You need to take a multifaceted approach to your job search. Networking, meeting with one or two qualified good recruiters, and that was a very good presentation that was given about recruiters that you can establish a relationship with and that know you. I would not meet with 5 recruiters to help you find your next opportunity. One or two good qualified recruiters that you can establish a relationship with. So networking, recruiters, looking at the big job boards, Monster, Career Builder, LinkedIn, looking at your target company job boards. You should have a target company list of about a dozen companies. You should be looking at their job boards a couple times a week to see if they have any opportunities that meet your needs. Then you're going to be preparing for networking meetings, preparing for interviews, sending out thank you notes to people that you've met with, sending out thank you notes to people that made introductions on your behalf. That's conducting a comprehensive job search. You need to do all of these things, not just focus on one tool. So the goals and preparation of a networking meeting. Think about what the goal is of a networking meeting and how you should prepare. How many networking meetings do you believe you should be going on in a day or a week while you're doing all of the other things that I discussed? You're networking, you're checking the big job boards, Monster, Career Builder, LinkedIn, you're checking your target company job boards, you're preparing for networking meetings, preparing for interviews, sending out thank you notes to people that you met with, thank you notes to people that introduced you. So how many networking meetings should you be going on a day? I believe it's no more than 2 or 3. Now, some people, and I know people, maybe you do, will say, I can go on 5 or 7 networking meetings a day. Not effectively or efficiently. You just can't. You can't properly prepare the way we're going to talk about for 5 or 7 networking meetings a day. It's impossible to properly do it. You can meet with people. You can meet with 7 people at Starbucks, shake their hands and say, do you have any connections for me? That type of thing. But that's not, I don't believe that's effective networking. Because if that person knows of a job or has a job, they're going to see that you're not properly prepared for that meeting. So I would say 2 to 3 meetings a day max. And a successful meeting is if you get 3 referrals from that networking contact for additional introductions. Now, obviously, the hope of that networking meeting is that that person knows of or has an opportunity, right? That's the, ultimate home run of a networking meeting. And that can happen. Uh, but that's not the true goal and objective of the networking meeting. That's why you need to prepare for that meeting as if it's an interview. 2 to 3 meetings a day, 3 referrals is a very successful networking meeting. The hard part of a networking meeting is not the meeting. That's not the hard part. The hard part of a networking meeting is not showing up and talking to someone. The hard part of the networking meeting is the preparation for the meeting and the mental preparation for the meeting of hoping and wanting and getting emotionally up for that meeting that the person might have an opportunity when the reality is they probably don't. And you may go on dozens of networking meetings with the hope and expectation that that person has an opportunity, but most people are not. But the hard part is getting emotionally charged up for that meeting in anticipation that they may have an opportunity, but you need to be prepared that they're not. And that's really the difficult part, that along with the preparation. So how do you properly prepare for a networking meeting? The same way you would prepare for an interview. That means doing research on the person and doing research on the person's company for every networking meeting. So 2 things need to be present for a meeting to move forward, a networking meeting or an interview. 2 things need to be present. You need to demonstrate your technical competence and establish chemistry. Chemistry and technical competence have to be present for a meeting to move forward. If you don't do those 2 things, the meeting is not going to move forward. It just simply is not. The way you establish chemistry with someone, and some people will say chemistry is either there or it's not. That's partially true. But you can do things to increase your chances of establishing chemistry with someone. And that is by doing research on the person and doing research on the person's company. Now, some people would say, if you do research on a person and bring up things, is that going to be creepy? And it's not, right? I mean, if somebody were to say to me, Jay, I see that you live in Eureka Springs in 21 Owen Street in a yellow Victorian that was built in 1885, does that require a lot of maintenance? That's creepy. If someone were to say, Jay, you wrote a book, how are sales? How's it going? Or I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you like to travel, whatever the thing might be. That's not creepy, right? That's just somebody trying to establish chemistry. Or I see that you went to school in Boston at Northeastern University, how'd you like living up there? That's just somebody trying to establish chemistry with someone. So that's critical. When you're meeting with someone, see how long they've been with the company. See how long they've been in their current position. If they've been in their current position or with the company under a year, you can say, I see you've been with the company 9 months. How do you like it so far? Or if they've been with their company for 5 or 10 years, say, I see you've been with the company for 5 years. Clearly you enjoy it. What is it about the company that you like so much? Get the person talking about themselves. That's how you build chemistry with someone, not talking about yourself constantly, but show them the respect that you've done research on them and give them the opportunity to talk about themselves. Do research on their company. If it's a public company, you should listen to their quarterly earnings call. If it's a public company, go on their website, look under investor relations, look under earnings release, and they will have a call. It'll be a recorded call with PowerPoint slides that the company CEO, CFO, maybe a division head, provide to Wall Street on a quarterly basis the earnings of the company, and they discuss the most current happenings with the company, profitability, expansion, product expansion, office expansion, whatever the case might be. And on the call are covering Wall Street analysts who cover the stock and shareholders. And you will learn a great deal of information about that company. Usually it's about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And you'll learn a great deal about that company, about their profitability, expansion plans. You'll also learn their terminology, which is critical. And let me just give you a couple examples of how this proper preparation pays off, and some uncomfortable situations that I've seen people be in. So, and it pertains to networking as well as interviewing. It doesn't matter. It's about being properly prepared about the company and being able to establish chemistry with the other person. So I was interviewing with MoneyGram, and even though I knew the finances of MoneyGram, I didn't really understand the money transfer business. And when I listened to their earnings call, I learned that they look at profitability the way airlines look at profitability in corridors. How profitable is Dallas to Paris, Rome to Prague, right? Corridors. So I was able to use just some of that jargon on the interview to say, how profitable are these corridors, or why is this corridor not as profitable as that one? And what it shows is I took the time to learn their language, their terminology a little bit. And that's really important. It shows respect when you're on a networking meeting. Try to use that company's terminology. Don't use terminology from your industry or another industry. What that says about you is, I'm not from here, or how long is it going to, the other person's thinking, how long is it going to take me to, if I hire this person, it could be on a networking meeting, how long is it going to take me to train this person to think differently? So listen to the earnings call if it's a public company and learn their terminology. It shows respect and it'll help you build chemistry. An example of where it didn't go so well, I had a client that was networking with someone in the cruise industry. And I like the cruise industry. My wife and I will periodically go on cruises. And I thought, I'm going to listen to the call and see how the cruise industry talks about profitability. And they went over their presentation, and now Wall Street analysts were asking questions. And they asked, one analyst asked the CEO, how many boats do they plan on building in the upcoming year? And the CEO insulted this analyst by saying, don't you know the industry that you're covering? We don't call cruise ships boats. We call them ships. Now, you may be thinking that's a really small thing, but it's not. It's not if you're in the cruise industry. What it shows is that analyst is not prepared. She doesn't understand the jargon or terminology of the industry that she's covering. And it made me think, if someone was networking or interviewing with someone in the cruise industry and kept referring to ships as boats, it shows a lack of preparation. It simply shows a lack of preparation in the misuse of terminology. So by listening to a company's earnings call, you can properly prepare for an interview. And that should be part of your preparation, is looking up the person that you're going to meet with and looking up the company that you're going to meet with as well. One of the other things, another tool in your networking toolbox should be cold calling. If you're low on leads, you should be cold calling people in positions that you would be reporting to. So this ties into the preparation, being properly prepared for a networking meeting. So I was low on leads one time in transition, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start, dialing for dollars and cold calling CFOs, because that's who I would be reporting to if I was going for a VP of financial planning. And I thought, I'm going to have a very low hit rate, and that's fine, because I knew if a CFO was willing to meet with me, he was willing to meet with me just like anybody else that you'd be networking with. People are willing to meet with you for 2 or 3 reasons. They're nice people, okay? Somebody helped them, so they're looking to pay it forward by helping somebody else. Or maybe if you're using somebody's name, they're going to help you because you're using somebody's name. That's fine. The other reason is maybe they have an opportunity and they're meeting with you, right? So it's one of those 3 or 4 reasons. So I knew if I was meeting, if I was cold calling CFOs and they were willing to meet with me, there was a chance, small chance, that maybe somebody was willing to meet with me because I had an opportunity. So I did. I had a very low hit rate. It might have been 5 or 10% of CFOs that I called were willing to meet with me. So I got through to one CFO of Comerica Bank, Texas. I asked him for 20 minutes if he would be willing to give me advice and feedback regarding my search. He said, sure. So I prepared for that networking meeting, as I've said before, as if it were an interview. Because how do I know? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I didn't know. But I prepared for that networking meeting as if it were an interview. So when he picked me up in the lobby, I had done all my research on the bank. I knew about their mergers, acquisitions, integrations, where they were, what other states they were expanding to, where they were profitable. I knew about him, how long he was with the bank. And so when we started meeting, he knew that I was very serious about this networking meeting. I was properly dressed, shirt and tie on, sport coat, the way I discussed. And after about 20 minutes, after we established chemistry and I was able to demonstrate my technical competence, he said to me, actually, the person that does what you do just resigned 2 weeks ago. I haven't had a chance to interview for the position. Seems like you'd be a good fit. You have time to interview later today for the job. So of course I did. So long story short, he hired me. I worked for Comerica for 5 years. He left, became the first CFO of Alliance Data, took me with him, worked there for 12 years, and helped take the company public. So one meeting that I was prepared for led to a 17-year career with 2 companies and helping take a company public. One meeting. That's pretty lucky, right? Well, the fact is that was my 85th networking meeting of that search. 85 networking meetings I went on over the course of, I think it was about 3 months that I went on before that happened. So if I showed up for that meeting ill prepared, just said, I'm just going to mail this one in. It's, my 85th meeting and nobody's had a job for me yet. So I'm not going to prepare. I'll just know some things about him. He would have shook my hand at the end of the meeting, maybe given me some referrals and said, I hope it all works out for you. And I would have been on my way. And none of what I just said would have happened. Because when we met, he didn't say, Jay, I'm so glad you showed up because I have this great job and it seems like you'd be a great fit. That didn't happen. We met for about 20, 30 minutes first to establish chemistry, allowed me to demonstrate my technical competence. Then he divulged that he had an opportunity. So that's what I mean by you have to prepare for every networking meeting as if it's an interview. Going back to that brain game slide about assuming, you can't assume that when you're on a networking meeting, that the person does not have a job, that they're just there to meet with you and help you out. You can't assume that, because if you're wrong, you may have just blown a great opportunity. And that's what I mean, that the hard part about networking isn't the meeting. That's the easy part. The hard part of a networking meeting is getting emotionally up, properly preparing. It's going to take you an hour or 2 to prepare for every networking meeting. That's why you can't go on 5 a day. So if you're going to put in that type of time and preparation for it, you need to get emotionally up for it and approach each one as if there is an opportunity. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking that's a lot of work for a networking meeting where there's not an opportunity. You're absolutely right. It is a lot of work for that networking meeting. But I wasn't willing to take the chance that if I was meeting with someone, that they would not have an opportunity for me. Because if I did that on this one opportunity, I can guarantee you my life would have been professionally and personally permanently altered. So you need to decide, this goes back to who's in charge. You need to decide how much time, effort, and preparation you're going to put into each meeting. Because a famous athlete I heard once said, success is when preparation meets opportunity. And you need to be properly prepared when that right opportunity comes. Don't take the chance and mail it in when that person might have an opportunity. So that's goals and preparation. So developing a playbook. A playbook is how you're going to demonstrate your technical competence. As I said before, a playbook is everything that you're going to say, everything. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to, either work here if you're on an interview? What are you looking for? Strengths, weaknesses, why you left your prior company, why you left every company on your resume. You should have a scripted out answer for why you left every company on your resume. A good recruiter is going to walk you down your resume and ask you every single opportunity why you left. And all of this is scripted out in a Word document. That's what a playbook is, a Word document. So my playbook for, as I said, for this presentation is 12 pages long. It's all scripted out. You need to have the same thing for a networking meeting and an interview, because I put the playbook together, the concept together when I was in transition. I found myself constantly re-preparing for networking meetings and interviews. And I said, well, this is ridiculous. I just want to prepare once. I just want to prepare one time, put everything that I'm going to say in a Word document, and that's going to be the foundation for how I present myself. So every bullet point on your resume, every bullet point needs to have a scripted out 20-second answer, every bullet point. So at the top of your resume, if you have summary of qualifications, so I have a client's resume here, and so at the top, right, he's got summary of qualifications, then bullet points down. For every bullet point at the top of your resume, have a 20-second scripted out answer for why that bullet point is on your resume. Every bullet point job description on that resume, I would copy the resume into the Word document, into your playbook, and have a 20-second story about that bullet point. You just need one. Script it out, timed 20 seconds. Because if the person wants more information, they'll ask you for a follow-up. But if they point to something on your resume during a networking meeting or an interview, if somebody points to something on your resume and you start with it shows a tremendous lack of preparation. Because you're going into a meeting, a networking meeting or an interview, you're going into a meeting with a 2-page document that you prepared. You need to know that document cold, and you need to know your background cold. So every bullet point needs to have a 20-second scripted out answer. As I said, tell me about yourself. Why would you want to work here? Strengths, weaknesses, why you left, attributes that you bring to the table. Everything that you're going to say in either a networking meeting or an interview, scripted out and timed. Your competition is not going to prepare this way for a networking meeting or an interview. That's how you're going to separate yourself from your competition. When somebody points to something on your resume and you can snap off a good, tight, concise 20-second answer, that shows that you're properly prepared. You're properly prepared for this meeting. So that's how I would develop a playbook. It'll take you probably 3 or 4 hours to put it together, of dedicated time, scripting out what you want to say, copying your resume into the playbook, and having 20-second answers for everything that's on your resume. But once you have that foundation set, you're going to tweak it here and there based on how you learn things by meeting with people. You may want to change something, that's fine. But the foundation of how it's set is there. and you're not constantly re-preparing. The only thing that really should change dynamically in your playbook is information about the company that you're meeting with and the people that you're meeting with. Script out bios about those people that you're going to meet with, script out information about the company that you're going to meet with, notes that you want to bring to the meeting. That's going to change. But the foundation of your playbook, how you're going to present yourself, is not going to change. That's going to be the foundation of how you present yourself. And then I suggest that you read your playbook into your iPhone, into your voice memo. So all the presentations that I give, I first speak them into my iPhone, and I'll listen to them. Listen to them while you're in the car, while you're walking the dog, while you're running errands, whatever the case might be, to drill this information into your head, because you should not be using up, your gray matter for easy questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? Whatever the case might be. You don't want to be having to think about those answers. So if you speak it into your iPhone, you listen to it back, you're going to drill it into your head so it just comes out in a comfortable manner. The other benefit about speaking the playbook into your iPhone is you're going to hear things that you may not want to say, either pronunciation, diction, or phrases. So I found myself saying at times the phrase, for an example, I think. I think is a weak phrase. It sounds okay when you're saying it, but it doesn't sound good when you're listening to it. So during some presentations, I found myself saying, I think is weak. It should be, if you're going to have to preface something with a phrase like that, I believe. I believe is a much better phrase. So if someone were to ask you something on your resume, you shouldn't start with, I think the best answer is this. It would be, I believe. My point is, the benefit of speaking your playbook into your iPhone allows you to hear things that you can modify during your presentation and change in your playbook. So I would develop the playbook, script out what you're going to say, speak it into your iPhone, listen to it back, and that'll give you an opportunity to make changes to how you present yourself. So can you answer the three big questions during a networking meeting? Think about what are the questions you're going to get during a networking meeting. You're going to get three basic questions. Remember, your job on a networking meeting is to make it easy for the other person to help you. By you being properly prepared for the meeting, knowing how to answer these questions, you're going to be much more efficient during the meeting. And that's how you can have a productive 20-minute networking meeting. Yes, all this information is in the book. I just saw that pop-up question. Everything I'm telling you, yes, is in the book. So the three questions that you're going to get during the meeting are, tell me about yourself, how can I help you, and what are you looking for? You know you're going to get those three questions. You need to be properly prepared. And again, to some of you, you may say, well, that's, master of the obvious. Well, that's fine, but I can tell you, I didn't have a good answer to either what are you looking for or how can I help you? That's the crux of the meeting, is when the person says, so Jay, how can I help you? And as I said before, the answer is not, do you know of any open positions, or do you know of anyone that could use somebody with my skills? That is not the answer to how can I help you. The answer to how can I help you is, do you know anyone on my target company list that would be good to meet with? And I'm gonna show you a tool that you can use to present your target company list. That's the answer, I believe, to how can I help you. Do you know anyone on my target company list that would be good to meet with? Tell me about yourself. I'm sure you all have very good answers to tell me about yourself. I'll give you my take on it. Tell me about yourself is not, I should be opening up the fire hose, and this is, my chance to tell the other person how great I am. That's not the answer to tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself. The intent of tell me about yourself is, I'm not sure how to start this meeting, whether it's a networking meeting or an interview. So I'm just going to ask the person, tell me about yourself. So I have my clients set up, tell me about yourself in three, I call them paragraphs. They're not really paragraphs, but that's what we'll call them. Three very simple paragraphs. The first one is I call the early years. I grew up in, went to school at, if you're not from Dallas, moved to Dallas in. So I would say I grew up in New Jersey through high school, went to school in Boston at Northeastern University, moved down to Dallas in 91 for a job. So that's the first 31 years of my life in 10 seconds, right? That's all the person needs to know. It sets up a little bit of background. He's not from here. He moved to Dallas from the Northeast. He went to school in Boston, that type of thing. So that's the first paragraph. Second paragraph, I would start with, most recently I did this. Most recently I did this, then name two or three things that you most recently did in your prior position. The third paragraph I would start with, where I believe I can make a significant contribution to my next company are in the areas of, and name two or three areas of your background, your expertise that you're looking forward to doing in your next job. And that's how I would set up, tell me about yourself. The early years, grew up in, went to school at, moved to Dallas in. Second paragraph, most recently I did this, name two or three things. Third paragraph, where I believe I can make a significant contribution to my next company or in the areas of, name two or three things. It's just a table setter, right? It's just a very simple, high level table setter. So that's tell me about yourself. How can I help you? We answered. What are you looking for? You're going to get asked, what are you looking for in your next opportunity? Have a scripted out answer from job descriptions that you've looked at that genuinely excite you, and answer the question with bullet points from those job descriptions. What I'm looking for, where I can make a significant contribution to my next company. You can use the third paragraph of tell me about yourself for what are you looking for. It's the same thing. And that's how I would answer those three big questions. You're going to get asked those three questions. You need to be prepared. You need to make it easy for the other person to help you. Tell me about yourself. What are you looking for? And how can I help you? So let's just go over the flow of a networking meeting for a second. The flow of a networking meeting needs to be, you study the person, you study up on the person and the company in order to build chemistry, technical competence. You need to be prepared to answer big three questions. Tell me about yourself, looking for, how can I help you? In and end every networking meeting with thank you for taking the time with me. I really appreciate it. Ask for 20 minutes, ask for advice and feedback, summarize at the end of the meeting what summarize in your person, the introductions that they ought to make on your, send a thank you to the person, not only that you met with, but introduction for you, and ask the person at the end of the networking meeting, how can I help you? That's a very, very powerful phrase when you're in need of assistance, to say to the other person, how can I help you? Most people are going to say, thank you very much, I'm all set. The point is that you asked, when you are in a time of need, that you asked somebody else, how can I help you? It shows that you're not a taker, that you're willing to give, uh, because what you do have to give are connections to other people. You don't know what that other person's needs are. Again, most people aren't going to take you up on it, but they will remember that even though you were in need, you asked, how can I help you? Now, what's the best tool for networking? I don't believe it's your resume, to hand somebody your resume during a networking meeting, personal preference, always bring a resume with you, always. What I'm going to show you in a minute is not a replacement for a resume. It is a networking tool. So you always bring a resume with you, whether you're on a networking meeting or an interview. But I developed the bio. Do you have the bio, Jeff, to put up on the screen?
Yes.
So I believe the best tool to use during a networking meeting is this bio. So clearly it's not a resume. It has a picture. The left-hand side are skills and attributes that you bring to the table. I got them from job descriptions that I was in, reviews that I've received. So down the left-hand column are competencies, skills, and attributes that you possess. In the center is a lift and drop from my resume and places that I've worked. But the right-hand side of the bio is really what makes it important, and that's your target company list, because that's the answer to how can I help you. So I believe the bio serves a couple of purposes. It answers the question, how can I help you? Because you're going to say, do you know anyone on my target company list that would be good to speak with? And you put your target company list together, a combination of public and private companies that you might want to work for. Have a very simple answer why each one is on your list. Maybe their products are interesting, maybe they're expanding, they have a good corporate culture, you believe you can make a significant contribution to the company in some way, whatever the case might be. Little tip, always, unless you have a really good answer that you don't want to work for the person's company that you're meeting with, always put that person's company on your target company list. How do I know? Because one time I was networking with someone and their company, I was rushing out of the house and I didn't put their company on my target company list. And they said, oh, I see that my company's not on your list. Excuse me. Do you not want to work here? So it was a little embarrassing. So don't do that unless you have a very good reason, whatever the case might be, that you don't want to work for that company. So it answers the how can I help you? Do you know anyone on my target company list? But always bring a resume with you. But I believe the bio is the best tool. Excuse me. I believe the bio is the best tool for the job. Always bring a resume with you. So I'm confident that if you prepare for a networking meeting the way that we're talking about, it will help you shorten your search. And you can use the same type of preparation for interviews as well. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, that is Jay's presentation. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask away before we get going. Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Where could we find the recording of this presentation for review purposes?
Yeah, it'll be on the Career USA YouTube channel, and I'll point that out in just a couple minutes.
Oh, okay, great.
So, yep, just hang on to the end of the presentation, and I'll show people exactly where it's located at.
All right, thank you, sir.
Anybody else have any good questions? Any questions at all? As you see, Jay is very pragmatic in what he does. It's step by step by step, and he really thinks out what he does. This is the accounting part. I guess his accounting brain on how he does things. So it's a really good step by step thing.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Are your networking subjects that you're meeting with, are all of those people that you're getting from LinkedIn, or most of them?
They could be anywhere. You don't know it could be it could be the grocery store clerk, could be a networking contact. I mean, a networking contact is everybody you know. There's another presentation from somebody else, and they talk about make a list of everybody you know. Your gardener, don't you think your gardener probably knows a lot of people? Who's, the person at the checkout counter? Anybody you meet, somebody tells a story that they happen to be in the checkout line and they go, well, why are you here at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Well, I'm currently looking for a job. Oh, well, what do you do? And well, my husband works for that company. Get me your resume and I'll see. So you never know where you're going to be able to network at.
So if you agree, you and another person agree to meet, and you bring your resume with you or whatever, how do you begin the conversation? Like, okay, so you're dressed up, you're looking good, and somebody agrees to meet with you at a coffee shop. How do you begin the conversation?
Well, what I always like to do is I would take that one-page bio, which I think is an extremely effective tool. I recommend everybody get a one-page bio. And you send that to them before the meeting, because on that one-page bio is your photo. That way they know who to look for when they're at that coffee shop.
Okay.
Okay, so I send that, the bio beforehand. And then once we get there, it's number one, thank you for meeting me here today. I've got some questions here. I'd love to be able to pick your brain a little bit. I'm looking for advice and suggestions for my, what I can do in the future. So, if you're not sure, it sort of depends. There's a couple different ways. If you're looking specifically for a job, when you're doing information interview, you never want to say, help me, I'm looking for a job. I'm just trying to get information and advice. I want your advice on, tell me about your company. I'm trying to figure out, I see your company does X, Y, Z. Can you tell me what the culture is like at the company? Can you tell me what you like about the company? And then, if you've found a specific job at a company and you reach out to that person and, say, you can, then just say, I know we had a great little networking conversation. I actually found a job that I'm very interested in. I was wondering if you could help get my resume to the hiring manager or to somebody in HR, because 75 to 80% of jobs are found via networking. So if you can network your way into a company, that's always the best way to do it. But at the beginning, if you're not sure what you want to do, I know there was this person who, if she'd gotten laid off after 15 years in the media business, and then decided, I think I want to get into healthcare, but I'm not really sure what. So she started interviewing people, going, well, what do you like about your job, and what area of healthcare do you really like? And eventually found that here's the position that she thinks that she should really target, because with her skills and what people said she could do, she went and targeted that job through also networking with different organizations. Hey, I'm looking for a job that can help me do this. How can you help me? And she got the job. So there's different types of networking.
Right. It can be done in person or over LinkedIn, I guess, right?
You can do that. You can do Zoom. I mean, everybody can have a Zoom account. And with Zoom, you can have a 40-minute Zoom account, now a Zoom meeting for free. So when you're doing that, if you can't meet them in person for whatever reason, try to use Zoom second, because you want to try to get that face-to-face is always the best thing you can do. And, then if worst comes to worst, then, via phone would be third, and then just via email or LinkedIn would be fourth. But, I always recommend, if you can meet somebody in person, face-to-face, that's always the best way to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's lots of, networking is everything. A question I used to ask when I would lead a networking seminar would be, so who here has never networked? And people would raise their hand. I said, have you ever asked somebody, well, what's that taste like? Or, or what are the ingredients in that meal if you're at a restaurant? Or if you've ever asked a question to somebody, you're networking, you're asking information, you're gathering information about something that you want to know about. So, I think you just need to be careful about help me, I'm looking for a job. And to me, that's what a resume says. So, and the other part about a resume, when you take resumes, is that if you're not customizing your resume to the job, you don't really know what they need. And you
Right.
may not, they may look at your resume and go, oh, this is really what I'm looking for. But
You have to customize through the job description, right?
exactly.
Okay.
That's why it's just so important if you're talking to, if a recruiter calls you up on the phone or you get that phone call, hey, we found you on LinkedIn. Like I like to ask you a few questions. What I always like to say is, well, thank you very much for calling. Can you tell me what was it about my resume or what was it about my LinkedIn profile that made you pick up the phone and call? Because you know what's important to them.
Oh, okay. So if you're wanting to, like, you can't really customize your resume if you are applying on a job board, like say Indeed. You can't really customize per job because you've only got one resume out there. What do you recommend in that situation?
Well, when you find a job on Indeed, the first thing I would do is go to the company's website and try to apply on the company's website with a customized resume.
But you can also use Indeed to let people find you, correct?
That's true. That's true.
So
So your resume on LinkedIn, probably your resume on Indeed or whatever, probably should have a lot more details. I mean, it should probably be 3 or 4 or 5 pages long because you're going to put more
really
than you would if you were focusing in on a specific job.
See, I thought 2 was the most you should ever have.
When you submit a resume, it should be 2 to 3 pages if you've got over 10 years experience.
Yeah.
If you're brand new out of college or you only had one job, 1 page is good. But you should prepare something called a master resume. We talk about this in our resume class in the first, and we'll talk about this next Thursday if you're with us.
Okay, yeah, I will.
A master resume is everything you've ever done since college or everything you've ever done since high school. You list all the details. And then that way, when you see a job description, you go through and take that master resume and cut out everything that's unimportant.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely join in on that for Thursday. Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you, sir.
Come back and join us. So, all right. Any other questions? If not, I'll just show you a few closing slides and we will get out of here. And it'll explain, it'll answer some of Rob's other questions here. Let me call it up. So Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Today being the 4th Thursday, today was all about networking. Tomorrow morning, whoops, get that to pop up here. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 Central Time in the morning, the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group are meeting via Zoom only. Kurt Vondermatter will be with us. Kurt is a retained search consultant. He is going to share what he sees in his crystal ball with the current employment sector, what's going on, what he is seeing. So should be an interesting presentation. Please come join us tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next Tuesday, we do a LinkedIn presentation every Tuesday. Kurt will also be our speaker next Tuesday, sharing what LinkedIn looks like for him. He pays over $10,000 a year for the full-blown recruiting package on LinkedIn. And he'll show us what it looks like from the back end, and he'll explain to us how he uses it and what he's looking for when he's trying to find you. So it's always a very interesting presentation. He's one of 4 speakers we have that rotate through talking about LinkedIn. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team, you'll be able to watch an actual practice interview. If you joined us yesterday, you saw a candidate being interviewed for the Texas Railroad Commission, and you saw what he did good and you saw what he didn't do as well on and what he'll work on before his actual interview coming up this Friday. It's only on Zoom. It's not recorded. So if you want to watch it, you do need to watch it live. If you'd like to schedule your own interview, just reach out to dallaspitcrew.com and you'll be able to get all the information you need to practice your interviewing. Remember, your resume, your LinkedIn profile doesn't get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills is what will get you your next job. And then next Thursday, being the first Thursday of the month, it's hard to believe it'll be the 1st of September already. We will talk all about resumes, effective resumes, how your resume can get through the ATS system, and what you need to do to make it easy for the applicant tracking system to read your resume. So please come join us next Thursday. If you'd like to join the Career DFW and Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to join one or both. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. I just happened to start one of each when I started each of the websites. We have currently over 14,000 members. We just passed that last week in the Career DFW group. So if you want to expand your connections and expand who you can reach out to, please feel free to join those groups. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and, more importantly, the Career USA YouTube channel. If you follow us on Facebook, every time we go live, your cell phone will give you a little buzz when we're going live. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, when you do that, you'll find out about any new video that I post. It'll take a couple hours for this video to be posted up there. But if you click on playlist, so you go to the Career USA, just Career USA YouTube channel, and then click on playlist where you see that green arrow. Every video I put in goes into a playlist. Then go and find the one that says networking, and it'll say view full playlist. When you click on that, it'll come up with a list of all the different events. If you click on the video, it'll play the most current video. But if you click on the view the playlist, you'll see all the different things, and you can scroll down and find whichever topic it is you'd like to go back and watch. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, please join the Career USA mailing list. You can send an email to Career USA, the plus sign, subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spam, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can join us on Zoom. Please know Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning. If not, hopefully we'll see you one day next week. So have a great afternoon, everybody.